So is Coach Rocky Long going to put this team through a brutal workout, or is he going to kind of give them a little bit of a break today as we get ready for San Diego State and Cal this Saturday? Coach Rocky Long is with us on Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090. Coach, thanks for having us here at practice today.
Sure, we're excited that you're here. I had to come out early to make sure you were here because you told me you were coming, but there was some question in my mind.
You really?
That's when I came through the gate. That's made my day. That's why I was so happy.
Were you thinking they said they were going to come,
but they didn't know how hot it was going to be.
Yeah.
No.
When I saw it was 100 and something degrees out here, I figured you might stay in that air conditioning place of yours to do your show.
I like the air conditioning, especially when it's someplace that I don't have to pay for it. I've been complaining all week now that my air conditioning bill last month was $970, and I don't have like a really big house. It's just the air conditioning ran all month of like August, and $970, right?
Well, turn it off.
Well, I did, and then my kids have learned how to turn it on.
Oh, I got you.
See what I'm saying?
I got
not
you.
good.
You got to do the tape like my dad did. Tape
Right.
stuff.
And I also haven't properly communicated to my kids that you actually pay for the air conditioning and the lights when they're on and the fans when they're on, and then you leave the TVs on overnight, etc. I haven't properly communicated that. So anyway.
Well, that's because you're a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want them to be happy and comfortable.
Yes.
Right?
So I'll get yet another job. You know?
Happy and comfortable.
Right.
Absolutely.
Coach, on a day like today where it is abnormally hot, does that change the way you go into a practice that you're about to have?
No, not at all. At this time of year, though, there's a lot of teams that practice 2, sometimes 3 hours. We never practice more than 2. And once the season starts, and then we do some warming up and we do some catching punts and that kind of thing. But once practice starts, we're never out here more than an hour and a half anyway. And we don't put full pads on once the season starts. You'll see we're in shells today. We'll be in shoulder pads and helmets. We don't put full pads on. But the tempo of practice is faster than most places I've coached at and most places I've watched. So we get as many reps in an hour and a half that most people get in 2 hours. But just because it's hot, that doesn't mean anything. You have to play in the cold. You have to play in the hot. And I was hoping it was going to be this hot in Oakland, but I checked. It's 80 degrees today, so they're getting soft, and we're getting hard.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
right on.
exactly right.
Do you expect to have any players come up to you and say things like, "But Coach, it's hot"?
Oh, that's a good one. No, they will not say that. That's exactly what they're thinking. That's exactly what they're thinking, but they
Can you
won't.
tell which one of them are thinking that, or all of them think that?
No, some of them are better than others, but you can tell which ones are thinking just by their body language and their expressions on their face.
My mom said I can't get overheated.
Right.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Coach, can we wear our white jerseys today rather than the black ones? Anything like that?
They don't say that, but it's interesting how it worked because we put the offense in the colored jersey we're going to play in that week. So the offense got lucky this week. They're in the white jerseys, and the defense are in the black jerseys.
I got you. All right, we're talking to Rocky Long, Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090. We are live from San Diego State football practice this afternoon. Practice actually goes at 4 o'clock, so between 4 and 5, you're going to hear lots of whistles and yelling and screaming. And if we could, watch the profanity on the field, we'd appreciate that.
Screaming.
I mentioned to the team that you were going to be here today, but we usually don't have too many problems with them. So in the staff meeting, I mentioned it to the coaches. Hopefully, they're mature enough to handle it, and they can coach without profanity. Now,
it's
that's hard to do. By the way.
It's hard for us to be on the radio without
No doubt.
profanity. Let me tell you,
Absolutely.
it's not easy. Coach, I want to just, if we could, let's talk a little bit about San Diego State versus USD.
Okay.
And then let's look ahead to San Diego State versus Cal. You had made a comment, and I heard John with Darren Smith earlier this week say it almost felt as though people were reacting to the victory as if it wasn't good enough, and almost to the point where it made it feel like you didn't even win the game. You've had a little time to digest that. Are you past that?
Oh, I'm way past that because now it's time to get ready for somebody else. But I've been coaching a long time, and I've never won a game by 30 points and felt like I had to apologize for it. I mean, that made no sense to me. But from the time the game was over, it was like I was apologizing for us not playing as good as we should have, and we just won by, I guess, 34. We just won by 34. And I've been coaching a long time. I've never experienced that feeling before. I've been upset at certain parts of the game when we won, but by the time I walked in the locker room, I was so happy that we won. And the other night I wasn't. And that's not right.
But are you saying from the time you walked off the field to the time you addressed the team, or are you saying after you addressed the team and the media had their chance to talk to you, that's when you felt like you had to apologize for the victory?
No, I kind of felt it leaving the field, that the expectation level was not met. Or even if it was met, the expectation level was never going to be met. Mm-hmm. As soon as I walked off the field, I had that feeling. And maybe I talked myself into that, which is a bad thing to do, is talk yourself into that. But I don't know. We could have won by 50 or 60 maybe if we scored touchdowns instead of kick field goals.
And then you would have felt better.
But what good does that do? No,
Right.
I've been involved in a couple games where I've been beat that bad, and I've been involved in a couple games where we won by that much, and I felt bad the whole second half. As we're trying to keep the score down, I felt bad for the other team, and it wasn't any fun either.
Well, right. Think about this. Number 16, Georgia Tech, defeated Alcorn State 69-6. Number 17, Ole Miss, defeated Tennessee Martin 76-3. Had you guys played great and won the game by that score, you would have gotten lambasted in the post-game press conference because you didn't take it easy on the school that has no scholarships. I mean, there was no way to win this game. It was a bad spot to be in, and you know that.
Yeah, that's the way it was. So, but it's the first time I felt bad after winning by 30. And I don't know what the reason was. Maybe I'm old and cranky and I don't have the same emotion I did. But that's the first game I've ever won that I wasn't happy after the game. I mean, sometimes it takes you a little while to be happy.
Yeah.
Because you think about all the things you did wrong. But by the time you get to the locker room, you're happy. And I wasn't necessarily happy
when you sat down and watched the film. I mean, were you happy then? I mean,
let's say I was happy some of the time, and not. But that's every game.
Right.
That's every single game when I watch the film. Yeah.
We're talking to Coach Rocky Long. It's Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090, and we are live from San Diego State's football practice. And we're going to be talking to we're watching the practice and kind of watching this team go through their prep for Cal. Because, Coach, look. You know the history of the program, and we've talked a little bit in the past. I mean, a couple years ago it was the Boise State game. I think they were ranked like 19th in the country. You went up to their place. You won that game. That was a huge win. But, again, it's one of those things. But it was only a conference win, and they're only a team from the Mountain West. It is so imperative to build a buzz for this program to beat a team from a Power 5 conference. And by the way, Washington State a couple years ago, San Diego State won that game. Mm-hmm. But do you feel that, or do you sense how important games like this are, or are they just for you another game?
No, I sense how important that is for the sake of the school and the program. And you fight as a head coach all the time on how you communicate that to your team, because we don't, in our program, we don't talk about anybody being better than anybody else. We try to prepare the same way every week. It doesn't matter if they're from the Pac-12 or if they're from the Mountain West Conference or they're from the Sun Belt. We don't care. It's who's next on our schedule, and we try to keep a balanced approach. You have to prepare. You got to be ready to play. You got to go out and play as hard as you can. Try to play as good as you can. And guess what? If you do, we'll win. It doesn't matter who you're playing. But for the set program, I understand. I understand that we're fighting a battle that we might not win, because the difference between the Resource 5, which I call them, not the Power 5, because they're not the Power 5. They just got the most money.
Right.
That's all. But the Resource 5, they got the gap between them and us as far as resources is getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, which makes it harder to beat them, but I still believe you can.
Yeah, well, Boise State this past weekend beat Washington. There's an example of a Mountain West school beating a Pac-12 school. Granted, they were at home, and there was a lot of emotion on their side with their former coach leaving to go to Washington. But do you even mention that to your team? Like, hey, look, we've already shown you an example. Mountain West over Pac-12. Here it is.
Well, I'm always honest. We don't say anything good about Boise.
There you go.
And to be honest with you, we don't think they're better than us, even though the natural assumption of everybody's they're better than us. Well, let me tell you, the last 3 years we've won 2 of them. So they're not better than us.
No, but they are in college football what Gonzaga was to college basketball. They're kind of a sweetheart. You know what I mean? They were the little school that could.
They're the media sweetheart. Yes, they are. Yes.
Right.
So we don't use them for an example. But I'll use Portland State beating Washington State. There's a FCS school, which I heard all about. FCS school that beat Power 5 school.
Mm-hmm. So what was your message to the team after the win over USD?
That we took care of business, but we were moving up in class, and we better play a whole lot better next week.
Yeah, that's right. Well, okay, so now you've looked at Cal on tape. You've analyzed what San Diego State did against a much lesser opponent, USD. When if you were broadcasting the game as an analyst rather than coaching the game, and they said, okay, Rocky Long, what are the keys to victory for San Diego State over Cal? How would you game plan it that they're going to win?
That's a simple answer. On offense, you have to control the ball. You have to get first downs and keep their offense on the bench. And on defense, you have to prevent big plays. They thrive on big plays. If you make them inch it down the field, they seem to make a mistake or two. But if you give big plays, the momentum and the rhythm goes, and now all of a sudden they're going all over the place. But if you can keep them on the bench, it's really hard for their offense to score when they're sitting on the bench.
Let me analyze that for a second. Did you
that
hear
makes
that
a lot of
I
sense.
did.
When the offense is on the bench, hard for them to score.
Yes.
It's hard to reach the field. Yeah.
All right, so run the football.
Wasn't that a commentator's
control the
comment?
clock. That was
Perfect.
yeah. I asked you to play the role. You played it brilliantly. So Rocky, so really then it is ball control. It's run the ball. It's control the clock. It's not allowing big plays for their offense. If you can do all those things, it doesn't matter where you're playing. You can win this game.
And no matter who you're playing against, you can win.
Yeah, I mean Cal to me, yes, Pac-12. Okay, fine. They're not USC. They're not Oregon. They're not UCLA. They haven't, to me, it's been 5 years since they've even been relevant in the conference. Since an Aaron Rodgers or a Jeff Tedford, I mean, they're not who they were several years back, is all I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Very beatable. I mean, this is a very winnable game for you guys, in my opinion. Granted, take what they did last week against Grambling, blowing them off the field, and what you guys did against USD, which wasn't good enough for some. This is a very winnable game on paper, the way I see it.
I think they're in the third year of their rebuilding project, and they have one of those quarterbacks you're talking about. So if you have one of those quarterbacks, the building process is a whole lot faster. I mean, he's as good as the ones you're talking about. Maybe not in the NFL, he would be, but he's as good a college quarterback as the ones you just mentioned.
How about your quarterback?
I'm hoping that he plays much better. I actually expected in the first half that he would struggle because it's been so long since he's been in a real game. And spring practice, we hit him. All through fall camp, he didn't get hit by anybody, and everybody was avoiding him and running by him. And I thought the first half it would look like it did. But now I was a little disappointed because in the second half, I thought he's an older, more mature guy. I thought he would settle down and relax and play better than he did. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping the second game is where he does that.
Right, yeah. Come out of that shell, right?
Yeah.
And how about the running game? I mean, I said to Billy Ray on Friday, I said, Pumphrey will have 250 yards before the end of the first half, and he probably won't even play the second half. That didn't happen, and it was an extreme expectation. Mm-hmm. But it didn't seem like the running game had the explosiveness that we've come to expect from Pumphrey.
And it's not the running back. I mean, he's still the same talented kid. We didn't perform in the offensive line like we anticipated or expected. And there's some huge concerns going into the second game because of that. Because the things they did were technically wrong, fundamentally wrong. They weren't blocking the wrong guys or doing the wrong thing. They were stepping the wrong way. They were hitting with the wrong hand. They were trying to be aggressive without doing it in a efficient manner. So now we have 3 new starters up there, so hopefully that is corrected too, because physically they're able to do it, but they did not perform very well in the first game.
They'll also be looking at a much better defensive front.
Much better a lot better players,
yeah.
But the same scheme.
Right.
So they got kind of used to our defensive scheme in practice, and they got better and better and better. So I'm hoping that since it's the same scheme, even though it's better players, it's the same scheme, they'll feel a lot more comfortable. It's only Wednesday. I'm very positive right now.
You want them to feel comfortable, though.
No, I want them to feel comfortable about where they go and how they go there. I want them to feel comfortable about that. do not want them to feel comfortable about they haven't made and last week we won. No, no.
All right, Rock, we're going to sit here and watch some practice this afternoon. We're going to let you get out there and do your thing. We really appreciate you having us here.
We appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is really exciting that you'll let us be here and watch practice and be on the air at the same time. Coach Rocky Long from San Diego State, this is a huge, huge week for San Diego State. Look, it was a nice event. There was a good buzz, nice crowd, Sky Show, filled up parking lot. It was a great event Saturday night. But now this is a huge game for this program to go on the road and play against Cal. And 2 weeks later, there's another huge game against Penn State where there'll be 100,000 people. And by the way, Penn State has already shown they are highly beatable, having lost already to Temple. So,
yeah, Temple, I root for those guys.
Yeah.
I think it was 31-0. Penn State had beat Temple 31 straight times. Well, that's what. It's 31-1
yeah,
now.
That's
so
right. That's right. So they've got bragging rights. Coach, thank you very much for having us here, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You guys.
Thank you.
Coach Rocky Long.